question. Recently, you've had some change in your life. I believe Seth Rogen brought about. I was wondering how you think marijuana has changed your filmmaking.
Immensely. I wouldn't say the filmmaking, but what it does is, and a lot of people say, oh, it's good for creativity. I've never felt that marijuana or smoking weed, I can't call it marijuana. It sounds like my parents talking about it. I can't ever say that smoking weed has ever made me more creative, but what it does in spades, hands down, is it drops all the inhibitors that stop you from being creative. All that kind of self-doubt shit, all the like, I'm not good enough, or someone's going to laugh at this, or someone's going to make fun of it, or some hater's going to shit on this. That's the stuff that stops you from writing. I don't think, my theory about writer's block is it's that. It's exactly that. It's when you hit that moment where you're like, there are too many good reasons not to do it, because you're just too scared, you don't want to take heat, you don't want to take criticism, you don't want to fucking have people be like, this is stupid, this is your best, blah, blah, blah. All that shit keeps you from trying things, from doing things, from stepping outside the box, from going for it, all whatever. I found in smoking weed, that shit just goes away. It's really fantastic at just zapping out the walls that we build around ourselves to stop, to give us any excuse to not create. You know what I'm saying? And I think subconsciously there are times where it's just like, I don't want to. It's a powerful thing and shit like that. And then there are times we're just lazy. Sometimes we'd rather just sit around, get stoned, and watch Law and Order. So for me, I knew that like I didn't start smoking weed till I was like 38. And I know a lot of people are like, what about those earlier movies? I was like, I was just kidding. But now it's kind of religion. So at that point, I knew once I started smoking a lot more, I was like, this is dangerous in as much as you can get lost in. It's like pussy. You just get lost in this. It's crazy good. So I said, what I want to do is make sure that I tie it forever to productivity. So it's not, so I don't sit there and light a joint and just watch fucking Law and Order. The moment I was going to smoke up, I had to do something creative. I had to be writing, had to be tweeting, had to be cutting a podcast, cutting the flick. I cut the flick like just smoking weed. Never stoned. I don't get stoned. I'm not a 14-year-old kid, but you know, I get centered. I call it the same thing. But I cut the flick. Just I'd sit there, bang, put it down, and just cut, man. Like George Carlin said, like an interview he gave about 10 years before he died. He was talking about like he used to do a lot of fucking drugs. He's like, I don't have much use for drugs anymore. He's going, but I do keep some weed around. He's like, and I don't like to write when I read, smoke when I write. He's going, I'll do my first draft, I'll do all my work. He's going, and then I'll take a joint, I'll take a few hits. He's like, doesn't take much anymore. And then it's punch-up time, you know, and then that's when he gets back into the work in a big way. And it's that, just losing the inhibitors. I can't tell you how valuable it is to put self-doubt aside. That's the thing that holds us back the most, man, or at least me. I can't speak for the rest of the world, but like doubt. Like listen to the people say you suck and going like, yeah, they're right, I probably do, and shit like that. Can't tell you how many cool things I've not done in this life, in this job, that I'm going to leave soon, because I was always afraid of what some fucker would write or some person would say or something like that. So weed, I've found, you just go like, you know, back in the day, I'd read a fucking horrible review for something I did. And not just a bad review where it's like the movie was ineffective, but one, you know, when they write bad reviews about me, they tend to fucking go personal and shit like that. Like, he's fat and he dresses weird. I used to read that shit and be like, oh my God, like fucking, how do you carry that around like luggage, man? Somebody says something about not just your work, but you in general, and my work and me are so closely tied that to criticize the work is to indeed criticize me, and we've seen me bristle at that kind of thing in the past. So I found that like now I could just be like, read a review and be like, well, he's entitled to his opinion, and that's it, you know, as opposed to like fucking losing a week at a time going like, I don't want to do anything, I don't want to write because this random stranger on the internet said that I fucked this up. And they always have a way of finding the shit that you feel most insecure about, some part of the movie, some part of the script, some part of the entire thing that you always feel like, God, I hope that nobody's noticing this. And then somebody will find shine a light on it, and you're like, ah, fuck. So I found that weed's not great for creativity, but it's really great for just going like, you know what, none of this matters. All that matters right now in this moment in time is creativity. And there'll be plenty of time for people to shit on it. And there'll be plenty of time for people to love it as well. But in that moment, right then and there, weed just gets rid of the world, and you just kind of focus on the words, focus on the work. So it ain't going to make the writing better by virtue of the fact that like, oh my God, I'm writing Shakespeare. But what it'll do is it'll fucking push everything else out so you can write whatever you're going to write. And that's valuable, man. Because the one thing I've found, the big enemy of writing creativity is always going to be people who are like, don't, why? I always call it the why people as opposed to the why not. Like motherfuckers, you're like, hey, let's put on a show, and they're like, why? What's the point? Like, why? What are we gonna get out of that? I like to be surrounded by people who are like, why not? Let's do it. Let's give it a shot. Why not? And weed is why not? You know what I'm saying? Like anybody tells you it's a drug, they're just fucking wrong. I don't think it's a drug because it grows everywhere. It's weed. You know, I think we were meant to have it. Don't get me started on that. But yeah, it's
friends.
Would you say that the marijuana, or I'm sorry, the weed, helped you think out of the box to break out of the comedy genre a little bit?
No, this I wrote before I ever smoked weed. I wrote this 3-4 years ago. Yeah, it was weird. It was written by a non-stoner and directed by a stoner. That's kind of strange. But no, it didn't. I mean, it was kind of mapped out and whatnot, so it didn't really I didn't look at it and go like, oh my God, this will take it a new place. The script it was all kind of already there. It was already weird enough. It's not like, weed will make this weirder. We couldn't. I don't know if we could handle much more weird in that movie.
I got a question for you.
Fire away.
On their behalf. You know, Quentin did an interview around when Inglourious came out in which they talked about the gang of filmmakers that he started off with when he started at Sundance and how most of them aren't making movies anymore.
Yeah.
You know, Allison Anders or people like that who are still talented, and they're still Alexander Rockwell, and you just think some people are survivors.
Oh my God,
and some
right.
people aren't.
That's right.
And so,
I forgot.
You maybe don't want to think about it, but there's a lot of filmmakers that you started with, you saw them on the festival scene, and you're a survivor. You've continued to make movies, while some other ones have dropped off. What is it that keeps you around? Do you think about the qualities that you bring to filmmaking?
I think the only thing that's kept me around is not the work. Like, I think some people do genuinely like the movies, because I think the movies don't work as most cinema. They work as more like blogs. And I think when those movies hit you, they fucking hit you hard, man. There's no in between. There's no meh stage with the stuff that I do. People, it's religion to them, or they're just like, it's just a movie. What do you give a shit? And then, of course, there's the hostile people who are like, fuck them. I think the only reason I've been able to stick around as long as I have is just because of moments, is because of that. Because that hour and a half or 2 hours that we sit around and chat, that's it, man. Like, from the beginning, Harvey Weinstein was like, go out and advocate for your movies, because you ain't got any stars in your movies, so we ain't going to get anybody on TV. You need to go out and speak about the movie. Who's going to speak more passionately about your movie than you, the filmmaker? So he forced us to go out, me, Quentin, later on Robert, he put us kind of in front of the movies to speak about them. Because of that, you develop a rapport with the audience. Like, I was always more interested in the audience than this bullshit. Like, this was just a way to get to the audience. How do you fucking stand up in front of the audience and be like, hi, my name's Kevin Smith, I'd like to talk to you for the next 50 years. You do that by making a film. Thankfully, the film connects, and boom, the conversation begins. So for about 17 years now, since since we got picked up in 94, but let's say, it's coming up in 20 years. August 2nd will be the 20th anniversary of the moment I sat in the Angelica Film Center, and watched Richard Linklater's Slacker and said, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to be a filmmaker. This counts? Like, if I can do this, fuck, I can make a movie that didn't look like it was complex. No explosions, no car chases. Dude walking, following one guy, then following another guy, and following a girl, and following that girl's friend. And it was just very simple, like nothing I'd ever seen before. And I was like, if this counts, I would like to do this. So it's coming up on 20 years since that moment. And I honestly think it has, the reason I've been here as long as I have, and then I'm not like, Alexander Rockwell, like going, wow, In the Soup is a great movie. Why he's not working still? I mean, John Waters can't get a fucking movie made. You know what I'm saying? Like, that scared me. I was talking to John Waters, not within the last year.
He's in town right now, by the way.
Is he really?
Yeah.
What a good guy.